I don't like it, but you guys know my policy on free speech and free expression, so I choose to ignore these images and ideas rather than amplify them. The real question, though, is do these truly hateful, racist memes and tweets represent a real movement of hate, or are they designed just to get attention? I think it's some combination of both. Frogs and Photoshop pictures of sick Hillary is little more than a bunch of guys in their basements using outrage culture against itself. It just means that they're here, and to demonize them without understanding them doesn't stop them, it actually strengthens them. I see on social media that people are using the phrase regressive left a bit less lately and replacing it with terms like bigoteer, the control left, or the illiberal left. Whatever name you use for this well-meaning yet painfully misguided set of ideas is largely irrelevant. We needed this phrase to identify this backwards ideology which puts groups before people.
To be white is to be a striver, a crusader, an explorer, and a conqueror.
It loves all of its minority groups to behave as monoliths.
We were trying to figure out a way to say, oh, I'm sorry, all the hotels are full. We can't fit you in, Jeb. Rubio trying to politely move them out of the way. No, it's fantastic. It's the Trumpian Republican Party.
So if you're a true individual, meaning you don't subscribe to the ideas that the groupthink has attributed to you based on those immutable characteristics, you must be cast out.
We don't need Muslims. We need smart, well-educated white people who will assimilate to our culture. Vote Trump.
Whether or not you like Trump, his win was a huge rejection of the identity politics of the left.
White Americans will ultimately be not only a minority, white babies are now part of an endangered species. You know, it seems almost superfluous to recount the achievements of the European and American people. I was scorned when I warned America that we would become a minority in our own countries. Whites were still 90% of America's population. Whites have lost many of their basic human rights. Tens of millions of whites. Black juveniles are 10 times more likely to be criminal. Our white parents are racist. I know some of you don't worry about the white children in those environments, but if you're white and you concern yourself with the well-being of your own people, even your own children, you are deemed a racist. Today, whites face massive racial discrimination, and though whites are still 70% of the population, are only about 20% composed of non-Jewish whites. So much anti-white racist discrimination going on, blacks are at least 3 times overrepresented in employment. The real racists are those who hate the European people so much that they're engineering our genocide. Millions are waking up now across Europe, across America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and among our beleaguered white brothers and sisters who face a violent genocide. The Associated Press just reported that whites are now a minority of those being born in America.
This backwards ideology, which demands we judge each other not on the content of our character, but on the color of our skin or some other baked-in trait, puts the collective ahead of the individual. The regressive, control, illiberal left, whatever you want to call it, is a group of people who place identity, usually based on immutable characteristics, in a pecking order of social importance such as race, gender, and religion, where victimhood is the highest virtue to be had.
We're selling this book. It's very powerful. White Girl Bleed a Lot, dealing with, racial attacks against whites being organized nationwide. Now the media is basically covering it up. There is freakish racism against whites now being promoted everywhere.
Where victimhood is the highest virtue to be had.
If you're white, you won't be able to be in any area that has people that aren't white in it because you'll be killed. And I guess that's the goal, and I mean, just whoever's behind it, it sure is working.
This oppression Olympics allows groups to compete for who is the most oppressed, thus the most virtuous.
At what point is it legitimate for whites to decry a policy that is making them a minority, when we're only 25% of the population, when we're 5%, when we're 0%, just as American society is changing. It's changing in ways that in their bones, whites do not care for, and that is why they move when the neighborhood turns Mexican or black.
And if someone isn't as oppressed as you, then you have full authority to oppress them accordingly.
Yes, Leviticus 20:13 calls for the death penalty for homosexuals.
Liberalism at its core is about live and let live. Now, that has nothing to do with the modern left.
What's the best way to do that?
Kill them. All these degenerates, everybody, junkies and freaks and gang members and criminals, they'd all be gone if this is great.
Educate them? Are you
sure?
sure?
They have criminal genetics.
That is about authoritarianism. That is about the collective.
Call what you
Come
will,
on.
maybe
you're
wrong.
You're not proposing we go back to the days of internment camps, I hope.
No, I'm not proposing that at all, Megan. But what I am
you know
saying
better
is
than
that
to
we need to
suggest
protect
that.
America.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff that gets people scared, Carl.
Right, but I'm just saying there is precedent for it, and I'm not saying I agree with it, but in this case, I absolutely believe that a regional
You can't be citing Japanese internment camps as precedent for anything the president-elect is going to do.
That wants to judge us all on these immutable characteristics of color and race and ethnicity and sexuality and gender and all of these things.
Hordes of Muslim men are coming in from a completely different culture, a completely different view on women, a completely different. We have to understand their mindset. There is going to be a flood in the next coming years of tens of millions of Muslims, come into Europe, come into our continent. And all I ever hear about is Islamophobia.
That wants to judge us all on these immutable characteristics of color and race and ethnicity and sexuality and gender and all of these things.
Everything that's killing us was brought about by Jews.
Killing us?
The legalization of abortion that has already killed, 40 million white babies in the United States.
The only thing which can replace the regressive descent of the left is a return to true liberalism. A liberalism which defends free speech and expression.
We have to talk to them, maybe in certain areas, closing that internet up in some way.
Defending my liberal principles has become a conservative position. A liberalism that is for liberty and rights of the individual.
You have to take out their families. When you get these terrorists, you have to take out their families.
And most importantly, a liberalism that is one for human liberty.
I'm going to open up our libel laws so we can sue the media.
Couple thoughts on the election. So look, for those of you watching this who dig what I do, who have heard the message that I've been promoting for the last year and a half against this social justice nonsense and this collectivism over the individual and the oppression Olympics and all of this stuff, this is actually a win for us. I think there's a great opportunity here. And I think Trump as a populist, in a weird way, his narcissism and populism might work to our advantage.
I'm overjoyed to see Donald Trump embrace most of the issues that I've championed for years.
You are a atheist libertarian YouTuber. You got one or two more adjectives? I watched your channel trailer. You had a few more adjectives for yourself.
Yeah, atheist, libertarian YouTuber, anarcho-capitalist asshole sometimes.
I'm psyched to have you on because your videos are just great. You're clear, to the point, funny. I love what you're doing.
Recently, I've garnered some attention over a statement I made on Twitter. That statement being, I might be a fascist.
I choose to ignore these images and ideas rather than amplify them.
I might be a fascist.
You're a libertarian through and through, fair to say?
Yeah, that's pretty fair to say.
I choose to ignore these images and ideas rather than amplify them. Dude, it was a pleasure talking to you. I'm a big fan of what you do, and the link to your channel is right down below, but it's youtube.com/thatguyt. And I hope next time we get to do this, we'll have some KFC in person. How about that? I now believe that this regressive ideology is the biggest threat to freedom and Western civilization that exists today.
Christian world domination needs to be established, and homosexuality needs to be deemed as a crime, and the homos need to be told, hey, you got to stop that. If they don't stop that, then I'm sorry. We have an inquisition, and that inquisition will enact the death penalty, as the scripture tells us.
This regressive ideology is the biggest threat to freedom and Western civilization that exists today.
China keeps pushing. The only option is full commitment to hit China preemptively. That's the only way to survive this nuclear war, and Trump knows it. And Russia has already been told they better stand down. The United States is preparing to nuke China. So get ready, assholes. All of you wanted it, you're gonna get it.
With the rise of Trump and the constant comparisons they make of him to Hitler, the left now has the perfect boogeyman to use to excuse anything. If your opponent is a vile racist, then you can use violence and any means necessary to stop him.
there's not even the same universe. I mean, she is an abject, psychopathic demon from hell that as soon as she gets into power is going to try to destroy the planet. I'm sure of that, and people around her say she's so dark now and so evil and so possessed that they are having nightmares, they're freaking out. There are dozens of videos and photos of Obama having flies land on him indoors at all times of year, and he'll be next to 100 people and no one has flies on him. I'm telling you, she is a demon.
You can use violence and any means necessary to stop him.
ISIS is honoring President Obama. He is the founder of ISIS. He's the founder of ISIS. Okay? He's the founder. He founded ISIS.
You can use violence and any means necessary to stop him.
44% of Republicans think that an armed revolution in order to protect liberties might be necessary in the next few years.
The regressive left has already begun using violence as a tactic, and I fear that that's just getting started.
I'm not letting anybody take my guns. If it goes 1 inch further, I'm going to start killing people.
If Barack Obama becomes the president in November again, I will either be dead or in jail by this time next year.
And I'm here to tell you, 1776 will commence again if you try to take our firearms.
The regressive left has already begun using violence as a tactic, and I fear that that's just getting started.
If you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them, would you? Seriously. Okay? Just knock the hell. I promise you, I will pay for the legal fees, I promise. I love the old days. You know what they used to do to guys like that when they were in a place like this? They'd be carried out on a stretcher, folks. That's true. I'd like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you. In the good old days, they'd rip him out of that seat so fast. But today, everybody's politically correct. Our country's going to hell with being politically correct. If she gets to pick her judges, nothing you can do, folks. Although the Second Amendment people, maybe there is, I don't know.
I now believe that this regressive ideology is the biggest threat to freedom and Western civilization that exists today.
He has to do something under his oath to discharge the goddamn Constitution. I say deport that Madonna and all of them to somewhere like Sudan or Somalia.
I've said a few times on the show that defending my liberal principles has become a conservative position. If you're liberal, is there anything left for you on the left? Let me know in the comments right down below, and we'll see if there's anything left to discuss.
It's the same issue, it's the same ideas, it's the same values. I'm glad to see Trump is revitalizing some of this, even though this has already started. The truth is, we've been working on this. My YouTube videos now get 1.2 billion views. The support we get on our websites is amazing. We are growing. There is a rising European American consciousness.